Uh, hey guys, this is Chris Moriarty Marks, the commissioner of the W&W Pokemon Draft League and the coach of the Toronto Trick Roomers, back with a different type of video for today. Today I'm going to be showing slash I guess explaining some of my draft prep method, how I go about getting ready for games and things like that. Just as sort of like a little behind the scenes look. There is a bit of a thunderstorm outside, so I'm sorry if some of that noise bleeds through, but hopefully it's not too bad, and hopefully the internet still works. And before we get into it, I do want to give a huge shout out to my opponent from this week, the hipsterbrownkid Sheikh, coach of the Nashville Ninetales, for allowing us to use the VOD from this video. Because as part of this, one of the things that I want to do is I'm going to walk through the method, and then we're going to go take a look at the games and sort of see how the prep that went into all of this showed up in the games. I guess is the best way to describe it, but enough of looking at this weird purple on purple nonsense. Let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing that I do is I just have a Google Sheet here, and on it you can see that I've got my entire team listed. Here I've got all of their tiers that they come from, and I also have their usages. Because with this season having the share the love clause, meaning that, no Pokemon can exceed 10 uses of the lowest used Pokemon, so Salazzle's already halfway there with Pokemon like Manectric, Mandibuzz, Dragapult all sitting at 0. So this is consistent every single time. The only thing that changes from this is my usage stats, so that's easy enough to update. But the next thing that obviously needs to happen on this sheet is that I need my opponent's team. I need that same information, but from my opponent's side, which I just happen to have all right here ready to go. Why are you like this? You know what, it's fine. We'll just go like this. So that's fine. And then the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to break these teams down, both of them, into 3 different categories that are predominantly the same but slightly different wording, I guess, that I use. And then we'll just do up here first, right? So from my opponent, we want to generate a list of Pokemon that are likely to show up, a list of Pokemon that could show up, less likely, but they could. And then I just like to call this no shot. There's no way they bring this. If they do, hats off, you got me. But now, in order to sort into these, what I like to do personally is just grab this, paste it over here. I said this was fine. It's actually annoying me quite a bit, so we're just going to do that, and then all borders, and then that, and then all borders. Sorry for that distraction, but now it looks better, and this will translate better. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at each one of these Pokemon. I'm going to look at the context of versus my team. Is it good? Is it getting up there in usages? Do I think it has a place? Do I think something's just better? And you can start at the top. You can start with potential problem Pokemon. You can start with all the obvious stuff that's not coming. You can do it however you want, but I just kind of go willy-nilly. There's honestly not a rhyme or a reason to it at all, so that's what I'm going to do here a bit. But I will start at the top with the Reggie Gigas. The Reggie Gigas looks good against my team, gets a lot of good coverage, hard to deal with, but the fact that the wheezing has to come and it has to have the neutralizing gas and it has to babysit the Reggie Gigas, and so far this season it's felt like the Reggie Gigas has been a little too unfamiliar to the Ninetales for them to wield it at 100%. It's felt a little difficult for them, and for that reason, more than I think that it's, it's good. It could absolutely come here and it could really cause some problems. I'm gonna put it in the no shot category because I don't think they've enjoyed using the Pokemon that much so far, and I think that they're going to try and build a game plan that doesn't rely on them having to babysit a Pokemon that I most likely have a very good answer to. And while we're down here in no shot, Quillfish Intimidate doesn't do anything. That's its best ability. As we saw in the week 2 matchup for the Ninetales, not even a Wakan Berry saves Quillfish from Magnezone one-shotting it. Like, it struggles to stay alive and accomplish much. So I don't think it's going to come. Now, these are the only 2 Pokemon I have down here, spoiler alert, but let's go ahead and grab some of the stuff that I think is super likely, and one of the obvious things is this Primarina. It deals really well with the Moltres. It helps deal with the Dragapult, the Mandibuzz, the Sableye. It gets coverage moves that help it to deal with the Venusaur and the Tangrowth. It's not a huge fan of Venusaur, but beats Doug Trio. It probably wins the 1v1 against Manectric. Salazzle's a weird one. It deals with Beheeyem. They're both specially bulky and slapping each other with special moves, so bit of a wash there, honestly. But Vulpix obviously does not do anything against it, and Wailord is kind of just the Beheeyem thing. They just sit there in front of each other and say nanny nanny boo boo. But I think Primarina is more than it's good here, and it can hit a lot of the team. It's a piece that they're super comfortable with that helps them have a big top end piece that they can play around and finish out end games that doesn't necessarily need to Dynamax. It's the franchise Pokemon. This is going to be one of their hardest matches. I have a strong feeling that they're going to bring the Primarina, and so I'm putting it up here in likely. I'm willing to plan around that. Copperaja is another piece, a lot like Reggie Gigas, that hasn't felt super... I mean, it's only been there for 1 week, but it did show up, and it felt a little like it was grasping at straws, like Nashville wasn't really sure what to do with it. It was just kind of participating, if you will. It wasn't great. And there's a lot of stuff that my team can do against it, but it does get a lot of decent coverage. It is pretty bulky. It could do stuff if he's willing to play around it. I don't think it comes, but it could. All right. Wheezing, I go back and forth between likely and maybe. But I believe I will settle on maybe, just because it's definitely a problem, right? Turning off all of the abilities, stopping Venusaur from getting Chlorophyll active, disabling Prankster, those are most of the important ones, but like dropping the damage on Beheeyem from Analytic, if I go that route, making it so that you can actually drop Dragapult's stats is problematic. It could go for the Misty Terrain if he's worried about like Sleep Powder Venusaur stuff and lots of Will-O-Wisps coming from a bunch of different places. Will-O-Wisps. I always hate saying that move. But I could be convinced to put it up in likely, but I think it's a maybe. Haxorus is, again, they've brought it twice. It's the most used on the team. It hasn't really sunk its teeth in yet. I think still Nashville's still trying to find the pieces to accent Haxorus correctly. Or it could be something that they make a move for in free agency, but who knows. Umbreon is a lot like the Weezing. I think it could go up to likely, just because it really is the best answer to the Dragapult. Just say, here's Foul Play, here's Snarl. Doesn't matter which way you go. I'm going to be a problem, and you're going to have to deal with me or whatever's next to me. Pick one, you don't get both. Which isn't true if I don't have to Dynamax it because of Dragon Darts, but also that doesn't deal with it very fast. I think I'm going to keep following the pattern. I'm going to drop it in the maybe tier, but I could be convinced that it moves up. Volcarona is a problem, and it's honestly the second best damage source on this team right now, in my opinion. Just because the Gigas has been so hard for them to get the slow start to work around. Playing with the Weezing is taking some practice. So really, PreMarine is the high damage on the team, and Volcarona has been good so far this season. Volcarona has been an issue, and it is an issue for a lot of my team. So I think he has to bring the Volcarona. Archeops is another thing that's like good against a bunch of this stuff, right? It's got Stab Rock against Moltres. It's got the Airstreams into the Venusaur. You do have the Weezing. You could disable the Defeatist ability. You could also give it a weakness policy. You've got several ways to activate it, and that just kind of negates the Defeatist as well. He could go for it if he wants to get offensive with his tier 3s. So I think Archeops comes, especially because whether it's a support or an offensive threat, he needs to get the usage in, right? And that's kind of a factor here. It's like Umbreon makes sense here. I think I'm going to move Umbreon up, actually. Umbreon looks good here, and it's at 0 usages, so you should bring it. Archeops is at 0 usages, and it looks good here, in a sense, so he should bring it. Galvantula and Glalie. I don't think Galvantula comes. I'm going to be completely honest. I don't think it has a particularly well-described job to do here, and more than anything, it just feels like it is prone to accidentally setting off policies. So I feel like he'll pass on the Galvantula here. I think Glalie is his best tier 4 option. So I'm going to move that up just because the ice typing, I mean, just look at my team and tell me that ice typing is bad. Glalie is not particularly threatening, but it's a 0 usages. Ice is good against my team. It's got switcheroo. It can do some weird stuff. Could be good. And then Dugtrio Cantonian is a bit of a weird one. I think it could be good, but I don't know. I don't really see what it does here outside of beating my Dugtrio and Salazzle. Outside of that, it just kind of loses to a lot of stuff. So it'd have to be like supportive or just try and set off Primarina, and he should know that I know it can do that. So Cottoney's decent, but a lot of my Pokemon are immune to Prankster. And if he turns off Prankster for my team, he turns it off for his Cottonee, and Dragapult can't drop its stats. Venusaur, Vine Lash Damage doesn't care about my stats or yours, it's just flat damage. Can't get Moltres, so a lot of my upper end stuff just really doesn't care about the Cottonee. So I really don't think it comes, but there are ways that I could see him playing towards it that work. And now, for the sake of speed, I'm just going to import my thoughts for my team, because this is me going through it for the second time. But I think for me, the must-brings are Sableye, just to get some, like, it's the best support for me here, given what I'm going for. Wailord is my best tier 4, and I definitely want to bring the Venusaur, so I can't go for the no tier 4 strat. So Wailord needs to come. Venusaur is realistically the best way for me to beat the Primarina, so I want it. It also helps deal with a lot of the different problems with some of the moves that it gets. And I need to use this Manectric, and I think it could be good here. Utilizing the switcheroo, the Volt Switch, we could go for like a Choice Scarf set or a Flame Orb. That is massive thunder. But yeah, it can mess with stuff that way. Stuff that could be good. Dragapult, obviously, it's just a big, massive damage source. Salazzle kind of helps deal with most of these things. Not particularly great into the stuff I'm expecting to see, though, so for that reason, I don't think it's going to come. Mandibuzz, getting Tailwind, Speed Control, doesn't really matter. Bulky could be helpful. Dugtrio's good. It helps deal with the wheezing in particular. Kind of helps deal with the Volcarona using Choice Scarf, Rock Slide. Tangrowth just getting redirection and protecting stuff could be good. Vulpix just guaranteed Sun for Venusaur. I'm not bringing the Moltres just because he's got a lot of good ways to hit it. Bug, super effective. Rock, super effective. Snarl makes Moltres sad. Primarina does good damage. Glalie, Ice type into it. Like if I'm expecting these 5 right here, plus probably the Galarian Wheezing, that's a whole bunch of stuff that just Moltres would have to power through to win, and that's an uphill battle that's not worth it. And Beheeyem, I don't really want to play around Trick Room, and letting him just entirely go first doesn't seem like a great idea. I guess there are ways that it could be used, but I'd rather save my Beheeyem usages for other matchups. And so now that we've got this, we can kind of hone in on what the expected matchup is going to be, which, lo and behold, I've already taken care of. Boom. I really don't know why you added all of these extra borders that aren't on the other sheet. Very, very weird. But, yeah. So these are what I'm thinking is going to happen. It's going to be, from my team, I am going to bring Venusaur, Dragapult, Sableye, Dugtrio, Manectric, and Wailord. And I expect him to show up with Primarina, Wheezing, Umbreon, Volcarona, Archeops, and Glalie. So now the next kind of important part of this whole thing is I need to start putting the team into Showdown and honing in on, you know, the EVs, how I need to train these Pokemon, what moves they need to run. And the way that I like to to figure out how to even get started going about that is to build this fun little table thing I got going right here. Merge all of these. Cool. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to say, all right, Venusaur is coming from my team. I'm just going to copy this and format it differently. So I guess I can just go ahead and do it that way, right? I've got my whole team right here. Why are you like this? Google Sheets hates me today. But basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, all right, offensively, what does Venusaur need to be able to hit, or what do I need to know my damage numbers against? And spoiler alert, Venusaur's got a lot of stuff that it's supposed to hit. To save time, I'm just going to import this whole list for all of them. But Venusaur, I need to know how much I'm doing with each of my moves into the Volcarona, because that is a matchup I expect him to play towards, is getting the Volcarona out in front of the Venusaur. So I need to know how much damage I'm doing to it. I need to know how much damage I do into the Primarina, if it's offensive or if it's super bulky, and that way I can know where my middles are and sort of figure out where it is. I need to know my damage into the Glalie. I intend to bring Weather Ball, so I need to know, is that a one-shot, or do I need supplemental damage to make sure Glalie can't do stuff? Wheezing, how much does my Earth Power do? Umbreon, how much does my G-Max Vine Lash do? And how much do Sludge Bomb and Frenzy Plant do? I think those are my intended moves. Do I one-shot Cottony with Sludge Bomb and or Weather Ball in case of some weird like disable situation? Caparaja, how much do I do to that with either Earth Power or Weather Ball? And Galvantula, what's my best move into Galvantula? Is it the Stab Sludge Bomb? Probably. But Comfy with Giga Drain, Draining Kiss should be able to tag all of these for super effective, so I just want to know how much I can expect that to do so that I compare that with the other calcs. Dragapult, how hard do I hit all of these things? And probably, I think my third offensive move, I don't really need Fly, I don't imagine. So, going for Steel Wing, how much damage do I do into a Weezing? Sableye is not here for offense at all. It's bringing Nightshade. I know how much damage that does every time. Easy. Manectric needs to whack Primarina. I just need to know how much damage that is. What do the calcs look like in Glalie? What do the calcs look like in Volcarona? Again, Volcarona I'm just expecting him to have on the field and try and play around, so I need to know how much I'm doing. And then these are all the things I expect Wailord to be able to hit with the 3 offensive moves I'm planning to bring, which I think are Earthquake, Iron Head, Liquidation. It should hit all of these. Yeah. So, now I'm going to do kind of the exact same thing. I'm going to say, hey, okay, now I need to know, why don't you do this correctly? Yeah, now I'm going to say, hey, okay, what things do I need to calc defensively? And this is that list. You can pause and take a look at it if you really want to, but these are the things I need to calc defensively in my mind. And the whole point of doing this step, of having these 2 little tables here, is it makes going to the calculator a less intimidating and more fruitful project. I know what I'm going to the calculator for. I know what things I need to plug in. I can mark them off as like a checklist in a manner of speaking. And this looks like a whole bunch of calculations to do, but the reality is I just put my Venusaur set that I build on Showdown, which I'll show here in a second. I just take that, I plug it in to this Pokemon damage calculator. You can import the set right down here, which I've already done. So if I go to Venusaur, you can tell that right here I've got my versus Nashville set. This is the one I'm intending to bring, I think. And so this is the way the Venusaur is already built currently on cartridge. And so now I'm going to take a look at this and say, okay, if my opponent has the mystical, let's go look at Volcarona, right? Because that was offensive and defensive calcs. So I'm just going to go to a blank set. I'm going to say, okay, 50. And then we're going to give it the magic stats of 252. And way too many stats for it to matter. 252. Cool. Might as well just make it the full set. And I'm just going to say, hey, okay, cool. How much am I doing here in these instances? So if I Dynamax, it's still Max Ooze. If I'm little, my best move is Sludge Bomb. If we're both Dynamaxed, still Max Ooze. So I should always just be clicking the Max Ooze, right? That was both offensive and defensive calcs, because quite obviously, if I just come over here, I can just put these moves in, and just as quickly, I believe you get Hurricane on Volcarona. You should get Fiery Dance or Heat Wave. I'm more worried about Fiery Dance damage. And then Bug Buzz. Boom. now I'm looking at the exact same calcs, offensive and defensive at the same time. Losing battle, but obviously he can't have all of these stats. So let's say he just goes for fast. So we're just going to let him have his damage and speed. Cool. He's still winning that. If we're both little, he should still be winning it pretty hard, but Sludge Bomb can keep up a little bit, especially if you get the poison, things like that. So I know that if I'm in the Venusaur Volcarona matchup, that it's going to be bad for the Venusaur, and I need supplemental damage to make sure that this thing's going down, and I need to focus it. But it just makes it so that going over there to the calculator is a more straightforward process, and I know what I'm going to the calculator for. I'm not just sitting there spinning my wheels going, I guess I should calc this thing. It's all right here. You can just check it off as I go. But yeah, so obviously the next phase is sort of, well, I need to be able to import my sets. So I come over here to Pokemon Showdown, and I put in my 6 Pokemon. I say, hey, look, I want a Venusaur. Hey, look, I want a Dragapult to go. I'm bringing from tier 2 Sableye. No other tier 2s, tier 3s. I've got Dugtrio and Manectric. That's the wrong Dugtrio, it's a Alolan. Manectric. And then my tier 4 is Wailord. Boom. Those are all in. Now I can start thinking about items. It's probably going to be a V here. I know I want to do weakness policy. And in order to proc it, I can either do Sucker Punch here, or I can do Shadow Sneak. Shadow Sneak I like better because it's less prone to getting shut down as an offensive move going towards my opponent if I need to use it. So Shadow Sneak. Plus I think Sucker Punch is an egg move, Shadow Sneak isn't. So that just makes getting the Pokemon ready easier. And I know what this set's going to be, right? I need my Phantom Force. I need my Dragon Darts. And for the Wheezing, I want Steel Wing. Where are you? There it is. Cool. No reason to get fancy. I think we can go Adamant just because we're way faster than him. Easy one. Shadow Sneak. Probably need Will-O-Wisp. I already said I'm going to do Nightshade as my primary damage move. And then Sunny Day. I need to be able to set the sun for Venusaur, which is all the way down here. That's the whole point. Make sure it's Prankster. This should be Tangling Hair. I know this is actually just going to be from the previous team, so I can just hard import that. Manectric. Lightning Rod, just in case it's next to the Wailord and needs it. I don't think Static's particularly useful. Most of his stuff I'm expecting is going to be special attackers, and I can't use the minus here, so Lightning Rod's the move. Spoiler alert, this is post-practice. I originally had a Choice Scarf here, but we're going to go for the Flame Orb because I need to be able to burn the Umbreon, and if Wheezing is shutting down Prankster, that makes it hard. Well, no, that's not the issue. The issue is the Umbreon's a dark type, so I can't Prankster burn it. I need Wheezing to turn off Prankster in order for me to be able to burn it with the Sableye. That was the issue. So with this, we just go something like Volt Switch, Thunderbolt for end games, Switcheroo, obviously. And then forget what I wanted as my last move here. Switcheroo Crunch. It's not a Flamethrower. Might be Quick Attack. Oh, Eerie Impulse. I want to be able to shut down some of those special attackers and just get them neutered, so that Venusaur has a better chance in something like the 1v1 with the Volcarona. And then, yep, no reason to get silly. Just do that. And then this is basically the same set that I ran last week. It's going to be the exact same Eevee, so I'll actually just import it over and change one of the moves to be Protect. And you get to hold an Expert Belt. So, that's the gist of it. And now when I actually go to the finished team, it's right here. You can see this is the results of all the calculations and everything. And this is the team that we ended up with. We've got Assault Vest Venusaur with Frenzy Plant, Earth Power, Weather Ball, Sludge Bomb. A very particularly teched out set of EVs that's meant to make the Primarina match a little more favorable, especially if he tries to go with some physical defense to help him against things like the Dugtrio, the Dragapult. Venusaur should have the favorable matchup there. This Dragapult is just meant to come out and bonk things. It's a very simple set. Same thing with Dugtrio. It's just supposed to come out, pick the correct move to go crazy with, and try and go crazy with it. Rock Slide for the bug types, obviously. High Horsepowers for the Wheezing in particular. Sucker Punch is just if he somehow has a massive speed advantage over me, he does get that Tailwind off with the Archeops or something like that. Sucker Punch just priority, deal some damage. And Iron Head, Rock, Ice types, hits them, the Fairy types as well. So either the High Horsepower or Iron Head can go into the Wheezing. Sableye we talked about. Ended up going with a slightly more complicated set to make it survive, I think, 2 strange steams from the Wheezing is what this does. And then the little bit of extra defense is just to help out if he brings some of those physical threats, because it didn't really have another home. I'm not using either damage source, so why not put it in defense? Nice and easy on the Manectric, and of course this is just the bulkiest I can make a Wailord, so ta-da. That's the team. And so now what I want to do is cut here and go take a look at how a lot of this prep actually translated to the games, what things went well from the prep, what things went poorly from the prep. But it is important to note that one of the things that happened here is once I got to this stage, I practiced. I took this team and I found some of the other players in the league, namely Jacob, the coach of the Charlotte Charizards, and I found Caleb, coach of the West Texas Wingles, who's normally my practice partner, and just played a bunch of games. Oh, I just realized y'all cannot see the showdown sets very well, given how everything is. Oop. That wasn't very helpful of me, so oops, sorry. Here you go. That's my bad. Forgot that the window was adjusted. And so, yeah. That is the team. It's still kind of hard to see the Wailord, but there we go. He's a Wailord. He's got Liquidation as that last move. And he's got the set of 4 attack, 252 plus defense, 252 special defense, and minus speed. Nothing too fancy or intricate there. It's just the bulkiest a Wailord can be. But now let's go take a look at the actual VOD from the game. And again, important to note that practice occurred, and so some things were learned, and that was part of the team building process as well on Showdown, the team builder. Was playing those games, learning what things were an issue, like the foul play from Umbreon is always a KO. I have to burn it, otherwise it just, if I can't blow it up first, it will guaranteedly blow up the Dragapult, which becomes a factor that we'll see here in these games. But we can already kind of see the team preview. So one of the great things about using the method that I've brought up here is that it lets you sort of anticipate what your opponent's going to do. And if you look here, we were 5 for 6, and the fault in my logic was that if he wasn't going to bring the Reggie Gigas or the Caparaja, he did not have to bring a tier 4, which means he didn't have to use that Glalie. So he could bring this Galvantula instead. And obviously at the time, none of these items were known to me on the other side of the field. But we got it mostly right. We got 5 out of 6, and the 6th one is something that we calced for anyway because it came from that maybe category, which we considered calcing offensively and defensively against. So we're theoretically ready to play against everything that my opponent brought, which is a massive buff going in. And even if you did bad calcs, even if things like that, it just lets you take that deep breath and say, okay, I at least am slightly prepared for these things, and I can recognize the things that are different from what I'm expecting and play around that, which I think we'll get to that point pretty early in game 2. But one of the things that we learned and one of the things that we calced was pretty much nothing lives a weakness policy proc to Dragapult. And the few things that do are going to take so much damage that it honestly doesn't matter. And we outspeed everything that's not getting a speed boost. So with that, let's go ahead and take a look at game 1. I'm going to scrub it forward a little bit here to get closer to that point. Looks like right around here. Yeah, so we can see that I go for the Sableye Dragapult. He doesn't know what this is yet, so he leads with the Galvantula Archeops. I see the Unnerve. I can't eat berries, doesn't affect me here. And in my mind, I know that the only thing that can really save him from this position is being faster than me. And if Tailwind is on the Archeops, I've got to deal with that. So the play here is to just set up the Dragapult, KO the Archeops. And it looks like he's thinking about the Dynamax. It is offensive. I didn't know that. But he's thinking. Oh, cheeky. He was going to try and Gastro Acid his own Pokemon to turn off the ability. He's just going to go for the knockoff onto the Dragapult. Okay. So, not pictured here. As soon as this thing got big, you could kind of hear the breathing start. And as soon as this Shadow Sneak goes off, you heard the, oh, I don't like that. Which kind of confirmed that he had not really fully mentally prepared himself for this to be the play, and he is now in trouble. There's the policy proc. In comes the Max Phantasm, preferred over Max Wormwind because getting the defensive drops is better, and he has multiple fairy types on him that he could have swapped into that slot to immune the damage. So Max Phantasm. Struggle Bug is going to accomplish just about nothing. Crit Sableye still did very little damage. So now, from my perspective, I don't get to see him picking his replacement Pokemon, so I know at this point that he doesn't have the Umbreon, because if he did, he would have had to bring it in right there. And I can anticipate that he's just going to go for the Dynamax on the Primarina, because that is his win condition at this point if he didn't bring the Umbreon, which means I just need to double target it. I think I Nightshade and Max Phantasm the Primarina here. Protecting doesn't do anything. Steel Spike, I don't need to boost my defense here. And Wormwind is immune by Primarina because she's a fairy type. Or is this one a she? He doesn't have that part on the screen for us. He's waiting for me to pick my moves. But, yep, here comes the big Primarina. This is a very long animation for whatever reason. Thank you, designers, for making this take forever. Look, it's big. And it would be an absolute shame if it really wanted to take a nap here. So we go first. Max Phantasm. And goodnight, Primarina. This was a crit. The crit probably mattered. But in terms of the overall way that the game was going to go, it didn't. Still having Dugtrio and Venusaur in the back, being able to set up the sun, the damage it would have taken from that Phantasm wouldn't have done much. Gastro Acid comes out to turn off our Prankster ability. Which doesn't really matter. Yep, here's that Nightshade. No longer able to target Primarina. It goes on to give out Insula. And that's just what the rest of this game looks like. This Volcarona comes out. My thought here on this turn is that the only thing he can do to save himself is to get a burn on the Dragapult as Dynamax ends with a Heat Wave. And so if there's a Focus Sash, that's the only way past that. So I Shadow Sneak the slot. Phantasm. This game's over. Because Galvantula can never win the end game. It has all my friends are dead syndrome. And so let's just take a look at this dope trainer card real quick. Oh, no. Hold on. Wait. Go back. Go back further. Why does the time scrub lie to me? I don't know why I want to see the trainer card so bad. But. Oh. Storm Internet. Okay. Well, the game's not going to let us. So. Going into team preview for game 2. I'm trying to think of ways that he can adjust. And I know that he's going to know that Umbreon is the best thing for him to do. He's going to switch to doing that. And Volcarona is the best pairing with that, besides maybe the Weezing. Umbreon Weezing and Volcarona Weezing were both good openers against me in practice that picked up a lot of games. So I'm kind of anticipating that. I'm going for a... I don't remember what I go for here, if I'm being completely honest, but we can fast forward and get into it. Or at least get closer to it. Yeah, here we go. Venusaur Sableye versus the Umbreon and the Volcarona. And my thinking here is that I just need to get a Vine Lash off. I just need the chip damage to be coming through to hurt this Umbreon. Because I know from my calculations that this Volcarona cannot one-shot me. It is incapable. Excuse me. So, I am guaranteed to get this attack off, and if he decides to max Flare, he gives me the sun, which makes me faster. So, I can punish him for attempting that if I Dynamax. And we got a couple of Big O's. But that's highlighting another moment where the method worked. It did its job. I knew the things I needed to calc. So I know how this Venusaur-Volcarona matchup is going to go here. That did a little less damage than I was expecting, which means that he's got some bulk to him, which means that this Vine Lash is now even a better idea. And boom, there goes the Snarl. I get dropped. This was something that we knew about from practice, so you just have to accept that our damage goes down. But big damage into that Umbreon, and crit is why. So Nightshade goes out just to get a little tickle on this Volcarona, who's now taking the Vine Lash damage, and Umbreon takes Vine Lash damage. Leftovers picks it back up a little bit. I'm going to speed this up just because we don't really need to grasp every detail. But he's going to Fake Tears the Venusaur to try and make up for the fact that I did not take as much damage as I think he was expecting me to there. Maybe not seeing the Assault Vest is a good option for me, but it is what I went for. So, max Airstream again, into the Sableye, trying to pick that up, does not. But now he is guaranteed to be faster than I would be in the sun, which is another fun thing to always check in the calculator, is how many speed boosts does something need to outspeed you. But I do get this max Quake off here to only go -1 from the Fake Tears Nightshade into the Umbreon, leaves it at 3 HP. So Vine Lash does pick it up. Nice to give the stat to Venusaur for doing most of the damage, but into the turn that was dead anyway. So Weezing comes out. I'm now in a bit of an awkward spot. But we see right here, Misty Surge came out instead of neutralizing gas, which is huge information. He was scared of Sleep Powder Venusaur, which we're not playing. So we've got him there, but it does create a similar issue of trying to burn the Umbreon. Just got harder. Max Flare is going to come out. That picks it up every time at the -1 Spadef. And now the sun doesn't matter being up for him because now he can just use it. And it's no longer super beneficial to me. We're teched to live 2 Strange Steams, but we're already super low there, so we knew we were going down. Still getting our chip damage off, but another healing item, Black Sludge, coming out. Ollie really trying to out-bulk me here. And so we're forced into a pretty unfortunate attempt of an end game. We've got the Dugtrio, and we've got the Dragapult, but we're forced to lock into one single move for the rest of the game on this Dugtrio. High horsepower doesn't feel great because it's neutral into this Volcarona. The Iron Head doesn't feel great because Volcarona, I think, actually just resists it. If not, still neutral. And the Rock Slide is probably the best move here because it helps clean up the Volcarona, but the lack of accuracy makes it not ideal for an end game move. But it doesn't matter because it +2, faster than our choice Scarf, no speed investment Dugtrio. And now Dragum gonna disappear, but it's just gonna waste a turn or two. Yeah, do pick up the Volcarona, which matters for stats, but then Wheezing Strange Steam doesn't quite pick it up. Who does pick it up? There's my policy. Yeah, PreMarina comes out, and I'm sure it's the PreMarina that gets it. But so we did lose out in game 2. Just kind of got caught in a bad opening. Yeah, so PreMarina was faster. PreMarina is going to pick up that KO. Going into game 3, things we learned is he's really ready to play around the Umbreon. He did bring it to do the thing that it was supposed to do, but it also does have the Snarl to deal with everything else. And his intended lead to deal with me is Volcarona Umbreon. And so now we can just play around that. We can say, hey, look, I know what your plan is here. You have to do that again because you're worried that I'm going to go back to my game 1 strat. And if I do and you don't do that, you're doomed. But look at that trainer card. Beautiful. Also, that one's good. But game 3, series on the line. I go Dugtrio Dragapult just because this is more threatening. Especially if I just Dynamax the Dugtrio here. His Volcarona is in big trouble. He knows he has to go for the foul play, which means I can swap something into that slot that can eat the foul play, like the Venusaur, which I think is what I go for. And because of the issues that we saw the last game, learning about the Misty Terrain, an important note going forward in this game that is that I decided to bring the Manectric to try and put the Flame Orb on the Umbreon so that I can just stall until it gets burned. But here we see him go for this Dynamax. He gets big, swapped into the Manectric instead of the Venusaur, just because I wanted to try and get the Flame Orb on the Umbreon before. He goes for a Max Guard, scared of what the Dugtrio was going to do, or that the Dragapult was going to target it and Foul Play wasn't enough. But Foul Play goes into the Manectric, doesn't do a whole lot. And neither did the Rock Slide. I get burned. That tells him that I'm holding the Flame Orb. But I'm sure, given the way that he plays this, I don't think he understood what the Flame Orb was about. So, Rock Slide, Umbreon dodges it. That's not the important one. And that's why we needed Dugtrio. That's a lot of damage. Eerie Impulse to drop its damage. Still going to die to this Max Flare every time, just because Dugtrio is not defensive at all. But that's fine because now we have Sun, we have a Venusaur, we have a Dragapult. This is a position that we're not sad to be in. And we've wasted 2 of his Dynamax turns. So the play here is going to be to bring in the Dragapult, switcheroo the Flame Orb onto the Umbreon and protect so that the burn actually goes off and I stall out his last Dynamax turn. And then I'm going to just let him foul play me and activate my weakness policy for me, because that will still leave me at plenty of HP. And I will be able to play it out from there with boosted Dragapult and Sun Venusaur. So really playing ourselves into a pretty pristine end game at the moment, it feels like. Switcheroo going off here to pass off the Flame Orb, and no more healing for the Umbreon. Boom. Good night, Manectric. You did your job flawlessly. Foul play into the protect. There's the burn. So an important thing to remember about burn is it affects all of your physical moves, and moves like foul play use your opponent's stat against them, but that means that it uses that as the base power for the move, which is still then cut by the burn, and I don't think that's something that Ali was really prepared for or had thought about, but also he didn't really have a better play other than to just ignore Dragapult, which doesn't sound great either, because the only offensive moves we've seen from this Umbreon were the Snarl and the Foul Play, both of which activate the policy, and the stats can't be dropped. But here's the turn. Volcarona goes Night-Night from the Max Phantasm, get the defense drop over there. Venusaur is just going to Sludge Bomb. Foul Play, thank you for the policy. Does very little damage after that. And now we're roaring and ready to go for when he brings in this Wheezing. We have Max Steel Spike. The reality is we still need to KO this Umbreon, because now that we're boosted, the Foul Play will probably still do enough to maybe KO. Or something to that effect. But he's going to go for the Foul Play. He's going to go for the Strange Steam, I think. No, he's going to Clear Smog. He wants to try and get rid of the boosted stat. And because I'm on Terrain, I have to really consider my move here. Because Misty Terrain halves Wormwind damage. But I choose to go for that anyway because Umbreon resists the Phantasm, so it's basically the same thing. And in reality, Phantasm was probably better in case the Primarina switched into that slot. He tried harder to avoid, but we get this Earth Power off onto the Wheezing, drops the special defense. We already did over 50%, so it didn't really matter. We knew that even after this Black Sludge healing, we would have KO'd. But now that the special defense drop just seals that, we go small on Dragapult, which is actually kind of perfectly timed. Because now we can look for either the Protect or the Phantasm. I think the Protect was better in the case that he protected his Wheezing, and I would have just taken free damage on the turn if there was the Ice Beam or the Moonblast at the Dragapult, which would have lost me my endgame win condition, and attacking without checking for Protect on the Wheezing, but Wheezing goes down to the Earth Power. Ice Beam comes out from the Prima. It is very offensive. It takes us just below 50% there. Sun ends. Still going to be faster with both of my Pokemon than the Primarina. But we know that we're going to lose Venusaur here this turn, so we hit the Frenzy Plant. We risk the 90% accurate move because that is guaranteedly enough damage for the Phantom Force to KO the Primarina. Whereas Sludge Bomb makes it a bit of a roll, even though it's guaranteed to hit. So we just go for the Frenzy Plant because it's super likely to hit. Trade Venusaur's life for 95% of Primarina's HP. And not even Protect would save here. So boom, Phantom Force hits, and we win the game. So overall, it was just a look into the draft prep method that I've been utilizing throughout this Season 7, and a look at how that transferred to the game, and some of my thought process going throughout the game, so that hopefully that can help anybody else trying to get better, or just, you know, fun little insights so people can now punish me and beat me in the league. But in any case, thank you for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. If you're catching this on YouTube, feel free to go check us out over on any of the 3 Twitch channels that are listed there. You can find Ali, the person that let us watch this VOD, as part of the review at twitch.tv/hipsterbrownkid. Caleb, the person that helped me practice, can be found at twitch.tv/theseagull. And I'm on Twitch at twitch.tv/texas2stepbot. And if you're watching this on Twitch, I'm not sure how, but go check us out on YouTube by following the QR code. And with that, I will see you guys in the next one. Have a good one.